Hello, we want to welcome everyone to the AmeriCorps 101 training for the 2022-2023 service year. I'm going to go to quick introductions. The voice you're hearing right now, my name is Tim Bohr. I am the AmeriCorps Program Director, and the other voice on this slide is Shanna, and she is the Assistant Director of WAHRS. And we are going to walk you through this AmeriCorps 101 training. The purpose of this training is just to give you a general understanding of what AmeriCorps is as new members with WAHRS. We'll go over about 20 some slides. They shouldn't take too long. If you have questions after the slides, again, feel free to reach out to Shana and I. Our contact information is, I believe, on these slides, so please reach out if you have any questions. We want to start out with what is WAHRS? WAHRS has actually been around for 40 years this year, so it has been around the state of Wisconsin for a long time. WAHRS stands for the Wisconsin Association for Homeless and Runaway Services. Our mission of WAHRS is to prevent and end youth homelessness in Wisconsin. As I said, we're celebrating our 40 years as an organization dedicated to collaboration of advocacy to end homelessness. WAHRS, through a cooperative, strategically organized system between private member agencies, like all of your host sites that you are at, provides programs to strengthen families, prevent family dissolution, promote self-sufficiency, and assure safe, stable, and supportive homes for youth and young adults. This is the staff. As I said, my name is Tim. Shanna is also on this training, and you'll see the picture there on the far left of your screen is Jolie Gunther, who is our Executive Director of WAHRS. You will meet all three of us at our fall conference, which starts in the end of September. Again, our contact information, if you do need it, we will give you this contact information as well at the fall conference. So WAHRS has programs throughout the state of Wisconsin. These are our list of our program locations. We also have a website, which is on slide 4, that you can go to that has this information on there and a really cool map where you can kind of hover over it and see where all the programs are. So each one of you new AmeriCorps members with WAHRS will be a part of one of these programs serving throughout the state. We have had many programs throughout the state, and we basically cover the whole state from north to south and east and west. So you can find your program on here. So AmeriCorps is the National Service Program, and it's the Cooperation for National and Community Service, which is CNCS. So AmeriCorps is the big federal program, which is CNCS, if you see there up top. And then from the top, you have sort of the next layer, which is AmeriCorps, the Volunteer Generation Fund, and Senior Corps. And obviously, we are in the red on the left of your screen is AmeriCorps. AmeriCorps is a huge federal program, and under AmeriCorps, there's 4 different AmeriCorps types that you can serve in. And as WAHRS AmeriCorps members, you are serving in the AmeriCorps State and National. There's also the Civilian Conservation Corps, AmeriCorps Tribal, and AmeriCorps Vista programs. So there are many, many AmeriCorps members serving throughout the country doing AmeriCorps service. But we are under AmeriCorps, and you are serving as a state and national member. Here are some of the AmeriCorps focus areas: healthy futures, environmental stewardship, education, economic opportunity. We have AmeriCorps members of the country doing disaster services. We have members serving with veterans and military families. So these are just some of the focus areas that members of the country will focus in when they're at their program sites throughout the country. Just going over some AmeriCorps facts. On the left of your screen is the AmeriCorps facts for Wisconsin in 2021. So just throughout the state of Wisconsin, we have just over 8,000 members and volunteers. serving in about 925 service locations. So each one of your service sites that you're serving with is part of that, one of those 925 service locations throughout the state. And we have around 32 million total investment for AmeriCorps just in the state of Wisconsin. So when you're serving at your program site through WAHRS, working with runaway and homeless youth and their families, just know that you're part of that 8,000 other AmeriCorps members of the state that are also working towards service and improving their communities. Just quickly on a federal, bigger level, there's AmeriCorps members serving throughout the country. Everyone receives the education award, which we'll talk about. But you are just one of thousands of AmeriCorps volunteers serving. So the AmeriCorps guiding principles, when the federal government passed AmeriCorps and decided to fund it many, many years ago, these were the key principles that guide AmeriCorps service work. So getting things done, strengthening communities, developing partnerships, the focus on branding and building the Corps as a unit, and encouraging responsibility and expanding opportunities. So these are the things that, of all of those, thousands of volunteers just in the state of Wisconsin, these are the things that they are guiding what they do in their service. AmeriCorps lingo. So this is sort of an important slide. As you know, any sort of group that you're in has its own lingo, and AmeriCorps is they're pretty up on trying to having their members say certain things. And so if you see here, what we did is we just took a few different sayings and just to get you all focused on what AmeriCorps' expectations are on that. So because this is service work, it's not considered a job. So if you see there where it says, don't say, I have a job through AmeriCorps, say you're serving through AmeriCorps. So it's not a job, it's serving. So instead of saying I'm working for AmeriCorps, it's again, you're serving with us. You don't actually receive a wage, salary. You do receive a wage and a paycheck, but we refer to that as a living allowance. So when you're talking to somebody out in the community, for example, at your service site, and they're asking you, hey, I see you're AmeriCorps, or what's AmeriCorps, and something, you can't say, well, I get, a wage, or I'm salaried through AmeriCorps. You receive a living allowance, which is the allotment of money you receive per month, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Employee, staff, or volunteer, you wouldn't say that. Instead, you would say AmeriCorps member. So you're not an actual employee of your host site or staff, you're an AmeriCorps member. And then instead of saying uniforms, it's just AmeriCorps gear. And we will supply you with that AmeriCorps gear at the fall conference or pretty soon into your term of service. So just making sure that when you're out in the community and you're talking about AmeriCorps to people who may not be familiar with it, just know that there's different sayings that AmeriCorps would like their members to say. AmeriCorps gear, as I said, we will be supplying you this gear, and you must always be wearing an AmeriCorps identifying item at all times when serving. This could be a badge, a pin, a lanyard, a jacket, a shirt, hat. We will get you uniforms from your site, from us. If you need anything, please let us know and we can mail it as soon as we can. So for example, if you're, let's say, doing street outreach in Milwaukee, and you would need to have something visible on your clothing that represents you as an AmeriCorps member. It can be something as simple as a little pin that we can provide you with, or a little jacket that will have the AmeriCorps emblem on there, the logo that you see there, that little A. or hoodies that we get you, or a hat, but just something that represents that you're an AmeriCorps member serving. So anytime that you're serving with that organization, doing that work, during that service, you would have something to identify you as an AmeriCorps member. One thing I will say with the AmeriCorps gear is that once you're done serving, let's say you go home after serving, it's probably a good idea just to take that AmeriCorps stuff off and not continue to wear it throughout the community, so people know that you're serving or not serving. So the next slide is an important one, and it's the living allowance, which I had mentioned previously before about this is that you will receive a check from WAHRS. The program year, so all of you will start September 1st, 2022, in a few weeks here. And this term of service through AmeriCorps State National runs 1 year. So it will be September 1st, and your term of service end date will be August 31st of 2023. So it's 1 full year, 12-month term of service. Some of you are full-time, which is 1,700 hours. And some of you are half-time members, or 900 hours. So those are the hours that you will need to complete within that year. The living allowance is different, obviously, because full-time members are serving at that 1,700 hour level, and half-times are 900. So for full-time, your check gross will be around 16,500 in terms of the total year. Gross per check, depending on what your deductions are for taxes, is around $687. Half-time members, obviously, a little bit less since you're serving only 900 hours half-time. So over that 12-month term of service, in total, you'll receive around $8,736. That comes out to be about $364 gross per paycheck, depending on your tax situation. Checks are sent twice a month, on the 15th and the 30th. The amount remains the same for each check and is not dependent on the number of hours in any given pay period. Members must put in hours in each pay period to receive a living allowance. So this is something that, as a new AmeriCorps member, can be a little confusing. Your paychecks will not change depending on how many hours that you put in for that 2-week period. For example, if you're going to be in schools for 2 weeks doing some presentations or checking in with students, and you're working, maybe you put in 30 hours that week, or 60 hours over those 2 weeks, your checks will remain the same as you would if you've only put in maybe 20, because that's as many service hours as you put in. So the gross per pay period check will remain the same, no matter how many service hours you put in on that time period. AmeriCorps members also can qualify for SNAP, which is the Supplemental Nutritional Assistance Program. Based on the language the USDA put out in 2001, the AmeriCorps living allowance, which you receive, does not count as household income. So if you are somebody who would need to sign up for SNAP, just know through that application process, the money that you're receiving from AmeriCorps does not count as income. So you would deduct that from, you wouldn't count that as your overall income. I'm a former AmeriCorps member, and when I did my term of service, I served with about 40 other people, and we all signed up for the SNAP program. So if you need assistance with that, you can let us know, or depending on where you're serving in the state, you would sign up through the county for that. But let us know if you choose to do that. We can answer any questions, or sometimes we also would need to provide a note saying, this living allowance that this AmeriCorps member is receiving does not count as overall income. So on top of the living allowance that you receive from WAHRS, that check every 2 weeks, the other noted benefit of being an AmeriCorps member is the education award. This provided 100%, this education award is provided 100% by the National Service Trust. It is not part of the grant. At the end of your term of service, you will serve that 1-year term of service. You will get all those hours in, whether you're 1,700 or 900. And at the end of that, you will receive your education award. And that's used to finance future education. If you have undergrad loans that you want to pay off, if you're thinking about going to graduate school or going on to earn a certificate of some sort, this education award can be used for that. If you're filling out a FAFSA, there's question 44D, put living allowance under other, it's not included as income, or to pay off qualified student loans, non-taxable income. So as I said, the amount of the education award will depend on if you're full-time or part-time, just like the living allowance. At the end, successful end of your term of service, if you're a full-time member, you'll receive $6,345. And if you're a half-time member trying to complete your 900 hours, you will receive $3,172 in your Ed Award. So that Ed Award, your last day of service, as we talked about before, is August 31st, 2023. And a few weeks after that, you'll be receiving your education award. And we have a whole separate video and slides on how to use your education award, and all that kind of stuff. So if you have any questions about that, again, please let us know, and we'll be sending out further information on the education award and how to use it and what it looks like as you go through your term of service. So now I'm going to hand it over to Shayna.
And Tim, that's 7 years, right? They have to use their Ed Award?
Yeah, it's 7 years from when you get it, you have to use your Ed Award. After 7 years, that Ed Award goes away. So just make sure that you don't have to use it right away. If you're just kind of thinking about going to school, you can just save that. But after that 7-year mark, it goes away.
Great. All right, I'll take it from here. So health insurance and child care assistance are available to full-time members. If you're not covered under another policy, family members are not eligible for this benefit, but any member can enroll at any time during the year. Just let me know if you're interested. The plan is through the CORE network, and I have all the information on that. So just reach out to me. I can get you signed up with the insurance card in your hand in about 48 hours. So it's a very quick turnaround time. So just reach out if you have any questions on that. Child care assistance forms are also available depending on your income. So again, just contact me on those and I can get you hooked up with those. MAP, this is Member Assistance Program. This is something new to us this year. It's a quality mental health services for our members. There's unlimited 24/7 telephone services. You can get counseling with like video counseling over Zoom. You can do text chats, coaching, medical advocacy, financial and legal assistance, life coaching, all kinds of stuff. So I will get all this information sent out to you probably first week of September. So then you'll have the contacts if you want to look into this and go from there. We also offer, in Wisconsin, we have the AmeriCorps disaster cadre. So this is like if there's any national emergency or anything happens weather-wise or other things in your community that they could use some extra AmeriCorps help. So if you're interested in this in your community, just reach out to me and I can hook you up with who's closest in your area. And then you would actually get a little training done on this. And then if they would need you, you have like 48 hours or something to go help and do some community work for that. So I can get you more information on that, but just let me know if you're interested in that. Every 3 months, we have to collect from sites. We call it the quarterly data reports. So all of this money is through a grant, and we have to show that we're working on performance measures. So our 3 performance measures we look at with WAHRS is we look at direct service to runaways. We look at youth who return home or to a mutually agreed upon alternative. And then we also look at the number of youth who have not run again within 90 days. So each 3 months, your site supervisors will ask AmeriCorps members to help them with this data, but these are the numbers of things we collect. We look at the number of street outreach contacts, the number of meetings you guys had, number of referrals of runaways, number of youth who returned home or to a positive placement, number of youth who reported running after initial services, number of youth who was sheltered if you offer shelter at your site, number of youth who exited safely, number of volunteers who helped at your site, and number of community presentations. So these are just things you'll work with your site supervisors on in gathering that information. Some of our sites, the AmeriCorps members do it all, others just help a little at the end with, adding up some data points. So that's just something to be aware of. So the first one due is October 10th. So that'll be just coming up. So just something to be aware of there. AmeriCorps also has National Service Days. So Serve Wisconsin always lets us know if there's things going on in our areas or communities, and we'll send you emails. But there's usually a National AmeriCorps Week, Senior Corps Week, Make a Difference Day, and many others come up. So again, Serve Wisconsin lets us know when these events are, and we will get this information out to you. Another thing, take pictures at your site. Send us pictures anytime. We can use them on our website, and we'll send to Serve Wisconsin for their newsletter. Group photos are always appreciated. Just remember, don't send photos of youth under 18 from your programs. Just more of like the workers or your site supervisors or things you're doing in the community if you're out and about doing stuff. So that's always good to have. All right, the 22-23 timeline. So September is here. Quickly, we're doing training and orientation. You're getting training on your site. Tim and I run coffee chats periodically throughout the year. So we'll usually throw out a Zoom call in time and then talk about different topics or things that might help you throughout your experience as an AmeriCorps member. Our big fall conference, you guys probably already know about. I've sent information already, September 25th through the 27th at the Osthoff in Elkhart Lake, and that is all covered for AmeriCorps members, so you don't have to pay for that. October 10th, that's that first data report is due that I was talking about. Tim and I do site visits with all our members in November to just make sure everything's going well and just check in and see where we're at. Fall and winter, Serve Wisconsin runs trainings. I know this year the topic is financial literacy, so I will get you that information. I think the first one is in October. January 10th, another data report due. February is our halfway mark. We're halfway done with our hours, so you should be at about, if you're, half-time should be at about 450, and if you're full-time at about 850. Hours completed. Your midterm evals are due then as well. You do that with your site supervisor, just kind of looking at how things are going. And if there's anything, looking at for improvement, or if things are going great, that's great. So that's in February, and then April, another data report due. And then August 31st, that'll be the exit from your term of service, and final evals are due. And that's always that question. Do you want to serve another year? We always love to have continuing members. All right, so we're going to I want you to say it with me. The AmeriCorps pledge. I will get things done for America to make our people safer, smarter, and healthier. I will bring Americans together to strengthen our communities. Faced with apathy, I will take action. Faced with conflict, I will seek common ground. Faced with adversity, I will persevere. I will carry this commitment with me this year and beyond. I am an AmeriCorps member, and I will get things done. All right, so now we're just going to quick go over Encore time tracking.
Okay, so I will talk a little bit about the AmeriCorps time tracking. So AmeriCorps uses what is a website which is called AmeriCorps to track all of your service hours. So just in like another job that you may have had, you have a timesheet, you record your time, you know, when you're working, when you're off. So AmeriCorps with tracking your service hours is the same thing. And Encore is the website where most of the AmeriCorps members throughout the state of Wisconsin and throughout the country track their hours on Encore. So there at the top of your screen there, the first bullet point is the website that will take you to Encore. So you can copy and paste that into your browser when this training's done, and you can start to set your account up. But that's the website. It's encorereports.com. When you get there, you will notice that at the top, you will have to choose a program year. And you new AmeriCorps members are considered going into or serving in the 2022-2023 term of service. So when it asks your program year, if I'm not mistaken, it's a little drop-down box, and you will select that program year 2022-23. They will generate a list of all of the different AmeriCorps programs in Wisconsin. You will go and find the WAHRS under participating programs. You'll scroll down to the WAHRS logo, and you'll click on AmeriCorps member under that. So the WAHRS logo is kind of the state of Wisconsin with kind of a circle up to the top right-hand side, and it'll say WAHRS. Right below that logo, you'll see the words AmeriCorps or member under that logo. So there'll also be, I think, program director and maybe executive director. But you'll scroll down to that WAHRS logo, and you'll click on member, and then you will log in. And logging in, you'll just have to do your first name or your last name and first initial. And it's all lowercase. So for example, Vashana would be Shana D. So your last name starts with the D. Mine would be Tim, and then first initial of your last name would be B. So you put in your first name and the first initial of your last name. And then the password is WAHRS, as you can see there, WAHRS, all lowercase. And so as soon as you put in, as soon as you log in with your first name and first initial of your last name, and you type in the password opening WAHRS, it will prompt you to change your password right away. The WAHRS password is just a temporary password so you can get in. Once you get in, you'll change your password to whatever it is you want. Please make sure, like in all passwords, that you're saving that password, because every time that you do log back into Encore at the end of the day to put in your service hours, you will have to put in that password. So you'll have to redo the password. So the username or the login, which is your first name, and the first initial of your last name will not change, but you will change your password. We do recommend when you first log into Encore and start putting in your service hours, that you do it with your site supervisor. Or for those of you who are at sites who have continuing members, their continuing members are experts at Encore after having entered hours in for the past year. So we recommend sitting down the first time when you log into Encore and putting in your hours, that you sit down with either your site supervisor or a continuing member who knows, and they can help you walk through it. It will be much easier. The time entry process for members' timesheets generally includes the following steps under time tracking. So it'll be member hours. So this will make more sense once you're logged in and looking at the timesheet. It's pretty simple, but you'll select a timesheet period. So those are broken down. in terms of weeks. And so if you're you've served 3 days in a row, and at the end of that third day you want to go and log in to Encore, you're going to select that, obviously, the time period that you're serving to log those hours in. Enter your data, your hours in the standard timesheet, which is the WAHRS actually does is what is called a standard timesheet in the Encore system. So once you get into your timesheet, you'll notice that you'll have a couple different things to choose from. And one of those is training. And that includes fundraising, training, the citizenship, all of that stuff, which we will kind of talk more about at the fall conference. But the training hours that you'll put in, you can only put in a max of 20% of your total hours. So to give you an example of when you would log into Encore and when you would put out service hours in for training would be for this, when you listen to this recording and training. So as you know, September 1st is when you start. So if you get in September 1st and you're kind of understanding your organization and meeting all the AmeriCorps members and your site supervisors, and maybe at the end of the day, you have a few hours or whatever, and you listen to this training, you would, however long it took you, you would put the hours under training for this. So this would be considered training. The other example I will give you is that at the fall conference in the end of September, when you all come, that's about a 2-day event. All of the time that you will be spending at the fall conference is also considered training hours. So we will remind you of that at the fall conference and go over that again. But when looking at examples of what you should put under training hours, it would be fall conference and slides like this. And there'll be other training opportunities throughout the year that Shana and I will send you, and we will let you know, this is something you can put for training hours. The majority of the hours that you're going to be putting in throughout your year term of service are going to be under service, and they're going to be under direct service. So I would say like 80%, 70 or 80% of your total hours throughout your term of service should be under direct service. Sometimes some programs have what we call a runaway crisis line, or they have a separate cell phone because they have a 24-hour runaway hotline or something like that. So that would be something where you would put your hours under that on call. And we do have a column in there for COVID. You won't put any hours in there unless we've had members in the past couple of years who have gotten COVID and they've had to work from home, and Service Wisconsin wanted us to record those in a different spot. But you won't have to enter any hours in there. If that does happen, we will communicate with your site supervisor and get approval before any hours go in there. So unless you've heard from Shana and I, don't put any hours in the COVID spot. The majority of those hours will be in direct service in your timesheet. After you enter in the hours in your timesheet, you will have to submit those for approval. It's a little button on the bottom where you submit. And once you hit that submit button, if you entered all your hours in for, let's say, that 2-week period, that timesheet will automatically go to your site supervisor, and they will review your timesheet. So if your timesheet looks good, they will approve it, and you'll be able to track those hours. Let's say that you forgot to put in hours on a Tuesday that you were actually serving at your site. Your site supervisor will send that timesheet back to you and say something like, hey, I know that you were here on Tuesday working with some young people, and I didn't see any service hours recorded on that day. Can you put in how many service hours you put in on that day? So if anything goes wrong, it's not a big deal. The site supervisor will review that and send it back. After you submit a timesheet, supervisor is notified and can approve or reject it, as I said, depending on if there is a mistake that they notice. The words direct service do not provide an accurate picture of daily activity. There is more detail that Service Wisconsin requires. So on the timesheet, you will also see a description box. For any day that you put in hours, you'll see that description box. And we need all the AmeriCorps members to put in some description of what you did, and these highlighted yellow words are the descriptions that we would like for you to use. These are very broad terms. For example, street outreach, client intake, school presentation. So whatever you're doing throughout your year term of service on an individual day, you'll have to just kind of think about what you did today and say, okay, I did a lot of street outreach, and maybe I did a little bit of school presentations, but I'm just going to say street outreach because that's the majority of service hours that I've done today. So anytime that you're putting in hours for a day of service, you do need to put in one of these description words, depending on what the majority of the service that you ended up doing that day. So please remember in that description box to just please put in one of these highlighted words. And what I did when I was a site supervisor is I had these words. My AmeriCorps members had these words on a post-it note by their computer. So every time they logged into AmeriCorps and they put in their hours for a day, they would look over on the post-it note and say, okay, I have to put in one of these description words. What did I do today? Just to remind themselves. AmeriCorps has done really well in terms of providing support for trying to navigate the timesheets in the AmeriCorps website as a whole. So you can find these in the toolbar under Help on the far right. So as you log into AmeriCorps, you'll see that it's pretty noticeable tab. It says Help on the far right. There are tutorials that you can watch that are very brief that will just show you how to do it. The AmeriCorps member tutorial, it's a PDF, the AmeriCorps member tutorial in Spanish, timesheets and reports for AmeriCorps members. So these are all additional resources for you and recordings to help you sort of navigate when you first get onto the AmeriCorps website and do your service hours. One of the most important things with your service hours is to make a plan. How many hours do you need every week to meet your goal? We really recommend talking to your site supervisor every month and set a plan together. AmeriCorps members will be meeting with their site supervisors at least once a month, if not more, just to check in on how things are going. Anytime that you sit down with them, it's always important, and your site supervisors will know this, is just to review your hours. Revisit often as you get your goal, put in more hours in the fall and winter so you can hit the total hours needed if you take time off in the summer or spring or something happens. Let's say you're out sick or something else kind of takes you away for maybe a couple days, that you have to have those hours kind of built up so you can kind of manage that. You're making sure that you're completing that 1,700 hours over that year term of service. And if you look on the bottom of this slide, you'll see full-time is, as you know, 1,700 hours. You complete that over the 12-month period. So if you break that down, that's about 33 hours per week that you will consistently have to put in over that 12-month period to hit that 1,700 hours. So that's 33 service hours per week. For a half-time member, that's about 17 hours a week. So if you have, let's say you complete your first 2 months of service, which is September and October, and you're a little bit below that 33 hours a week, that would be an example of meeting with your site supervisor and saying, hey, I'm about 10 hours short. When can we make these hours up? Let's look at my schedule and that kind of thing. So just making a plan with your site supervisor. Shane and I will check in with each AmeriCorps member at the halfway point, and we have access to the AmeriCorps time tracking as well. So we can see how many hours each of you has. And if you're way behind, or even if you're putting in a lot more hours than you need to, we'll communicate with you and say, okay, this is what we need to do to make sure we end your term of service with completing that 1,700 or 900 hours. If there's any questions, as I said at the beginning, these are our emails. Please don't hesitate to reach out to us. This was quite a bit of information, and I'm assuming just starting out as an AmeriCorps member at a program site, you'll have a lot of questions. But reach out to us. That's what we're here for. If you have a question, again, those members who have continuing members at their sites, they will be a wealth of information for you to reach out to them just with a quick question, or your site supervisor. So those folks are there for you, and Shana and I are here for you as well.